Most Chicago public school students have been back in the classroom for 11 days now. But some families say their kids aren't safe from COVID-19 in school buildings, and they're demanding more access to remote learning. Meanwhile, other parents say in-person learning is necessary to make up for the year of learning lost to the pandemic. Here to talk about CPS reopening are Brenna O'Brien, a leader of the group CPS Sick Out. She's also earned her PhD in curriculum and instruction and has a second grader and a fourth grader in CPS. And Norberto Casas, a CPS parent who has a child in pre-K as well as a first grader. Thanks to you both for joining us. Brenna O'Brien, let's start with you, please. The return to in-person learning has been called chaotic by some. What do you think? How would you explain it?
Absolutely. Some of us parents were happy to send our kids back in June. We were looking forward to the 5 days a week. But as the summer progressed and we saw how Delta was hitting other states and other schools, and just that it was transmissible to people if they're vaccinated or not, we just felt that August 30th was too soon and that we wanted to keep our kids home. We've always advocated that those who need to go in person can go, but those of us that want a remote option should have that choice to be able to connect from home.
Norberto, you have two young children. What has been their and your experience so far this school year?
So far this school year, it's gone very, very well. We had the open first grade.
Norberto, I'm going to come back to you because we're struggling to hear you at the moment. Brenna, I wanted to come back to you. You helped to organize the protest yesterday. What are you and the other parents with CPS Sick Out, what are you demanding?
Well, basically, we're demanding for Lori Lightfoot to take some accountability for this lack of leadership at the Chicago Public Schools district level. It seems like nobody is steering the ship right now, and the third largest school district is just adrift in the middle of this pandemic. So we want her to take accountability, but also to just recognize that there's many different ways that the district is failing students. Not only are kids like my own not able to access remote instruction, but the kids that are going, they're being sent home in quarantine, and parents are receiving letters from the contact tracers up to 10 days later that their kid was exposed. And that's not helpful to anyone.
And Norberto, I want to ask you that same question. Again, you have two young children in CPS. What has been their and your experience so far this school year?
The school year started with an open house for my first grader. And I asked the principal this. I asked her, so how do you see the new year shaping up? And she answered me, Norberto, I wish we could do it all over again. And I asked her, what do you mean, principal? She said, they've lost so much, in-person instruction time, and they're so behind. I wish we could do the past 12 to 18 months over again. I'm scared.
And Norberto, do you have concerns if some kids should shift to remote learning about what that means for the pandemic, but also for the teaching and the attention that your children are getting?
Yeah, as far as my children go, I picked up my son yesterday from first grade. His teacher told me he needs to work on his mathematics. He needs to work on his writing. He needs to work on his spelling. And I told the teacher, you know what, that seems like a lot of topics at one time. She said, he's not at level right now. It seems that, he's coming from behind. And I said, do you think that has anything to do with the pandemic? She's like, unfortunately, yes. It seems that the students are at a disadvantage because of all that time that was lost in in-person instruction.
And it sounds like you're hearing that is the case, for your students, for your children, but also for a lot of students. Brenna, CPS officials.
Absolutely.
Brenna, the CPS officials, city's health department have required masks indoors, mandated the vaccine for employees. Is that still not enough for you to feel safe, especially in the high schools where also the students have access to the vaccine?
We're very happy that there is a mask mandate and that they're encouraging vaccines for the children, that they're making sure that the teachers are vaccinated. But we know that there are still positive cases all over the district. There are kids that were in quarantine on the very first day. And so after the protest yesterday, I came home and I got a letter that there was a positive case in my child's school. It's not just about the safety mitigations, it's that there are positive cases happening in schools all over the district. And we would really like for them to have the testing in place that they promised would be September 1st, and it's still not in place. And also the contact tracing has just been an utter failure when parents are getting notices just, this weekend about kids having exposure on the first day of school. So it's 10, 11 days later. That is not helping them stop the spread of this virus.
Yeah, and we're hearing reports that the district still needs to, from sources, that the district still needs to hire close to 28 contact tracers. Norberto, your kids are too young to receive the vaccine. How concerned are you about them bringing home COVID?
It's always a concern when you have an infectious disease, okay? But as far as are we concerned, it's on our radar screen. But we have to keep in mind is this: today we have non-pharmaceutical interventions, which are the masks, which is the washing of the hands. We also have pharmaceutical interventions, which are things that didn't exist in the 1918 pandemic, the 1890 pandemic, the 50s pandemic. So seeing that there's non-pharmaceutical and pharmaceutical interventions, we sleep a lot better at night knowing that those weapons are being deployed to keep our children safe.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. Best of luck this school year to the both of you, and thanks Norberto Casas and Brenna O'Brien for joining us.
Thank
Always
you.
a pleasure to be with you guys. Thank you for having us.